Draw my life, jelly bean green. Hey y'all! So, I grew up in a very small town in the northeast part of the USA. The town is so small that there is actually a point where you can hold your breath driving through it from one end to another. It was a beautiful place to grow up in, but very quiet and sheltered. It was clear from a young age that I was very different from the rest of my family. I lived with my mom and my dad and my older sister. My family was supportive of my uniqueness, but also often confused by it. My mother would sometimes say, "We love you, we just don't know where you came from." My father actually used to tell a story about where I supposedly came from. He said that one night he and my mother and my sister were eating dinner when they heard a noise in the backyard. When they went to investigate, they were surprised to see a spaceship hovering over the lawn. As they watched, a door opened in the side of the spaceship and a small baby appeared. Suddenly, an alien foot booted the baby out of the spaceship and the child plummeted down to the grass below. Then, as the alien aircraft flew away, a voice from within called out, "See what you can do with her." My mother loves that story, and she would ask my dad to tell it all the time. So, what made me so different? Just a lot of little things. I had a very vivid imagination, and I would make up a lot of weird stories and songs. Once I wrote a jingle for a Selling Life Vest called Down Went Jenny, and it was about a girl drowning. I went through a phase where I insisted on hopping everywhere instead of walking. While all my classmates would line up and walk in an orderly line to lunch or to the library, I would fold my hands in front of my chest like a bunny, and I would hop the whole way. This went on for quite a while. The oddness of the bunny hopping was probably not improved by the fact that I had enormous buck teeth, or by the fact that I would only eat lettuce and butter sandwiches for lunch. School was very challenging for me. I got good grades, but I had an intense sense of social awkwardness from a very young age, and I found a lot of the lessons at school to be really boring. All I wanted all day long was to just go home and read. I was a voracious reader as a kid, to the point where it actually damaged my eyes and I had to get glasses. I would often get in trouble for reading during school. I always had a book hidden on my lap beneath my desk. Anyway, I was lucky that I didn't really get bullied too much in high school, or if I did, I usually didn't really notice because I was very sort of oblivious and in my own world all the time. So while there was no major traumatic event that made school difficult, I just had this constant sense of unease and anxiety. Like I just didn't belong there and that it must be obvious to everyone. 1st through 12th grade was, for me, like the emotional equivalent of running a marathon with your shoes on the wrong feet. Also, starting at about age 12, I began to have issues with depression and anxiety. The first time I ever remember being depressed was after the first time I saw the film Jurassic Park. I loved that movie. I loved it so much. I was especially blown away by a scene early in the film when they see the Brachiosaurus for the first time. I don't know how many of you have seen it, but there's this really beautiful moment when the visitors to the island see this giant live dinosaur for the first time. And the Brachiosaurus kind of rears up on its hind legs to take a bite out of a high treetop. And at that moment, the music swells and it's all just very dramatic and glorious. Though I couldn't have quite articulated this at the time, that scene was for me an incredible example of synchronicity in film, where all these different elements, story, special effects, cinematography, music, they all came together just so to make a perfect moment. But I remember lying in my bed at home after seeing that movie for the first time, and I remember holding a pillow over my face and crying. I kept replaying that scene in my head over and over again, and I was completely overwhelmed by this feeling of despair. Like I didn't even want to exist, because there's no way that my life could ever be as beautiful as that one moment that I saw on screen. Of course, I know that it probably sounds absurd to think of someone having a serious life crisis over the movie Jurassic Park, but there it is. Anyway, despite the anxiety and depression and terrible feelings of not fitting in, I eventually made it through high school. One of the most important things that got me through was theater. I started acting in 7th grade, and I totally fell in love with it. I got involved with the theater club at my school, as well as community theater. I acted in every production I possibly could. There would be times when I would be involved in 3 different plays at the same time, and I loved that. I was always happiest in rehearsals. I loved the sense of adventure and discovery that came with working out how to stage a scene. And I loved the feeling of sharing that with other people. I also loved the people that I met. It's a pretty common stereotype that drama clubs are a collection of misfits, and that's often true. So many of the other kids I met were different in a lot of the same ways I was, and I liked that. I went on to college, and that was a long, confusing mess. I was very unsure about what I wanted to do with my life, so I changed my major multiple times, and I dropped out a couple of times, only to return a semester or 2 later. All in all, it took me 8 years to graduate with a 4-year degree for theater and creative writing. But I was the first person in my family to graduate with a 4-year degree, so that was something. On the very same day that I graduated college, I married my boyfriend, who I had been with for a couple of years at that time. We had met through mutual friends a while back and had eventually fallen in love. People talk about relationships having highs and lows, but our highs and lows were very dramatic. We had some amazing times together. We went on adventures together. We shared tons of common interests. We made each other laugh. But our bad times were really bad. After a few years together, we decided to go on our biggest adventure yet. We packed up and we moved a couple thousand miles away from our families and all our friends, to a new home in the southern part of the U.S. We loved our new home, and I think that going through that daunting experience of such a big move really brought us closer together. We accomplished a major feat by saving up for and making that move, and we felt pretty good about ourselves. Things seemed really good for a while, and after a few months in our new home, we decided to have a baby. About 10 months later, my son was born. At that point, my husband and I had started to have some problems again, but we were both just so in love with our child, and we were so happy to be parents. We experienced a number of really significant challenges over the next couple of years. Both my husband and I had some real serious individual personal struggles that we had to go through, and it was very hard on our relationship. When I became aware of the fact that my marriage might end, I became very worried about how I might care for my son as a single mom. I had read an article about the ways that people contribute to society, and I had been thinking about how I'd been active in volunteer work since I was a kid, and I decided that I wanted to find a way to get into a career that would both make me financially secure and allow me to contribute to my community in a significant way that was meaningful to me. So I began taking steps toward becoming a nurse. Around the same time, I made a very important discovery. My sister had been visiting me, and she got very excited one night, and she said, "I have to show you these amazing videos that I found on YouTube." My sister and I had both experienced ASMR our whole lives, though of course we didn't call it that, and we had talked many times about these different things that gave us a happy, relaxing, tingly feeling. These videos, she said, were meant to give the viewer that same feeling. They were made especially for people like us. So she set up a video on her iPad and gave me her headphones, and I watched and I listened. It was a video by Ilsa of the Water Whispers, and I was totally blown away. Starting that night, I began watching ASMR videos every night to help me sleep. ASMR became a huge part of my life because it brought me comfort, and it calmed my mind on a lot of nights when I otherwise would have lain awake for hours worrying. Sometime later, my husband and I decided that we wanted to get a divorce. We had come to a place where I was satisfied that we had done everything we possibly could to try and make it work, but we were both just so miserable. There was this one little thing I remember that really made me realize exactly how unhappy I had been, despite trying to convince myself that things were okay. I was looking in a mirror one day and I realized that I had developed this permanent sort of bunchy little wrinkle between my eyebrows. I tried to smooth it out with my fingers, but it kept bouncing right back. I tend to furrow my brow when I'm upset, and I realized that that was what had caused the wrinkle. And I remember thinking, oh my God, I have been so unhappy for so long that I broke my face. Things were very hard for a while, and they still can be, though they're getting better. I have primary custody of my son, who is an amazing and very energetic child. I've been going to school part-time and working from home at night so that I can be around to care for my son during the day. Somewhere in there, I made the decision to begin my own ASMR YouTube channel. Making videos can take up a lot of time and money, so it has been really challenging at times to fit that into my already crazy sleepless schedule, but I make it work because I love it. In addition to satisfying that part of me that loves helping people, it's a wonderful creative outlet for me, which is something I've been without for some time. I don't really talk about my son on my channel because I'm very protective of him. I know there are a lot of YouTubers who talk about their kids with different degrees of transparency, and that's great, but it's just something that I haven't been comfortable with, so I don't really do it. Also, I think because I struggle so much as a single mom, and I know that there are some unkind people out there on the internet, I worry about how I would respond if someone tried to upset me by saying something inappropriate about either me as a mother or about my child. I generally take unpleasant comments here in stride, but I think that's the kind of thing that would maybe provoke me to kind of hulk out. So I try to avoid making that a possibility. However, I will say that my son is the best, most amazing light in my life, and I love him more than I thought it was possible to love anyone. So that's me. I've been through some really challenging times, but I've learned so much. I have a child who I love. I'm on a career path that I feel great about. I'm building a YouTube channel that I'm so passionate about. And I've found love again too. For a while now, I've been dating an incredibly special person who is kind and brilliant and supportive and who makes me laugh. It's a very happy relationship, and it's a healthy one. In closing, I want to say how grateful I am to all of you. I am constantly amazed by how lucky I am to have some of the kindest, most thoughtful, funniest viewers on YouTube. Anyone who takes a minute to read through the comments on my videos can see that's true. Y'all are kind enough to let me know that my videos are something that you enjoy and how they help you. And I want you to know how much you help me by supporting me, by watching and liking and commenting on my videos. You all truly light up my life. So thank you. Thank you. Thank you.